Chief Fletcher right before I walked in here. I literally do not know more than I just told you, but as soon as we have more information, this is very important, and I'm very concerned about what's going on out there, and I need to go talk to them.
Why is that troubling?
We've got an officer down. We had somebody out there shooting at our Army Reserve Center. This is a very, very terrible situation, and we need to go figure out how we can handle it.
My first question for you would be if you could just recount the events of that day.
So I woke up that morning and thought that July 16th was going to be a good day because we had secured the clawing back of economic development incentives for the first time in history. And Mayor Coppinger and I were going to hold a press conference to talk about that and to say that these funds would be returned to the city and the county. We were in City Hall, and right before I got up to the podium, received a call from Chief Fletcher saying that there was something going on. He had been headed up to Nashville for a conference, that he was turning around and I needed to pay attention. And we got up there and we started talking and going over what we wanted to chat about. And I got a note from somebody who worked for me while I was standing up there saying, officer has been shot and there's an active shooting event. And that's basically what it said. So I immediately ended the press conference and said, we're leaving right now. And, it'll be plain quickly why we did that. And so we walked out of the room and started a long chain of events.
Whenever you first got that piece of paper that said that there had been an attack, what was the first thing that went through your mind, or what was that process like, processing that?
It's extremely hard to process those things in real time, even having received a call that something was going on before, because just a few weeks earlier, we had seen the horrific events in Charleston, South Carolina, where there had been an attack. And I remember I had watched Mayor Riley, whom I knew, go through the events and thought, my gosh, I can't imagine what that would be like. And I was born and raised in Chattanooga, and here we are in my hometown seeing this. And so, it really was foggy. But I asked immediately, kind of as we started to hear that there were casualties, and to understand what was going on. I didn't know who had done it and why, but I immediately asked them to roll a whiteboard. We had a big rolling whiteboard into the office, and I asked the entire staff to come into my office, and told them at least the beginnings of what we had heard had happened. People started crying almost immediately. You can understand. And then I tried to tell people I understood, and then I wrote up some rules on the whiteboard of what we needed to be doing. The first of which was no one will be radicalized by what happened here today. I didn't know, again, the motive, but we didn't want anybody to be radicalized as a result of that on either, from any point of view. And then number two was it's not about us. I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to hear the word I for the next few weeks. There are people and families who've lost loved ones, and this is just about them, and whatever we need to do, we're going to do for them. I know number three was we are going to be transparent and honest with people about what we know, and we're also going to be right about what we say. There may have been a couple others, but I remember those three most distinctly.
And you mentioned growing up in Chattanooga. Do you think that the events of that day have changed the city? And if so, how do you see that?
It really was, I think, a moment for us to show our true selves. And to, there was a New York Times article that was written a few weeks afterward where the writer interviewed me. And at the end of it, before he or she had submitted the article, I said, well, I look forward to reading the story. And the writer told me, well, it's got to get through my editor. I'm not sure they're going to believe that the story is thorough because it's so positive about what the community was like. And that just shows you a little bit about, I think, the way that Chattanooga responded. And so uh, I'm not sure. I think it probably changes everybody to have that kind of mass casualty incident in their hometown. But I also think that it really allows people in those moments to either be their best selves or their worst selves. And for Chattanooga, what I saw over and over again was people were being their best self.
And in the aftermath, you mentioned the community response. Could you talk about just the days after the attack and how you saw the community respond?
It was incredible to see people who really wanted to participate. Like we set up a number of funds, or we set up a fund and had people working on that. And so much of the questions that we were receiving was like, how can we help? And we were just trying to make sure that people could participate in some way because so many Chattanoogans wanted to be involved. People from across the country wanted to be involved, and so we needed to set that up. I mean, one of the most hair-raising experiences of my life was a few days later, we had a vigil, and it was at Olivet Baptist Church. And the leader of the Muslim community came and he asked during his talk for everybody who was part of the Muslim community to stand up. And just to remind everybody, this was a perpetrator. They knew him. He'd grown up in Chattanooga. They knew the family. And this was very painful for people who had seen somebody they knew perpetrate this attack. And a couple hundred people stood up, and he said, normally we would be in our temple because this is the last day of Ramadan. But tonight we are Chattanoogans first, not Muslims first. And, I just, every hair, just even repeating it to you, every hair on my body stood up. And it was incredible to see what the community response was.
As we approach this 10-year anniversary next month, what do you hope Chattanooga, as well as the country, takes away from that anniversary?
I think there are a couple of things to take away. Number one is we should continue to honor the sacrifices of the men who served our country valiantly during this time and fell during this incident, and to keep the families in our prayers and continue to think about them. And I wish them the best. And then I think second is that I always feel tremendous patriotism during these times. Unfortunately, spent time with grieving, or I mean, I'm fortunate to spend the time with them. Unfortunate that it had to be grieving with families who had just lost loved ones, to hear, our leaders, our military leaders talking to them, and to hear them say, like, they understand that service to our country, this is part of what happens. And I feel so thankful and happy that they are serving us. And then I spent a lot of time with great military leaders in the weeks and months afterward, talking through these incidents. And then third is, I think, to really think about community. And so many times during my moments of being, particularly in leadership in Chattanooga, I saw huge outpourings of support for each other. And at least to me, this is a a thought that we should be our best selves as often as possible, and not just on those days when we know that our neighbor needs it.
And one thing that I saw a lot of just around Chattanooga was the phrase Nouga strong. I was wondering, how did you see that be brought to life by the community in the aftermath of those events?
Yeah, well, people were strong each and every day. First of all, you have to be strong to face what had happened head on, and so many people did that. And then I think, second of all, to comfort people who had were either family members or fellow service members of those who perished during this incident. And then I also think the last way I saw people being strong was really figuring out again that proper response of we're not here to somehow make some kind of political statement or some huge prejudice statement or anything else. We're here to make sure that we, know that justice is served, that we help our service members and their families, and that we really help each other get through this incident. And that is a tremendous strength of our city.
And talking a little bit about the Fallen Five, what do you think that people should know and remember about each of the men included in that?
Yeah, well, these men and their families were incredible patriots. I heard a lot about them in the weeks following them. They each had their different paths. They were at different points in their lives, and I think that, we should remember that they were there to serve our country. They came from, both pretty close to Chattanooga and way far away from Chattanooga, but that their fate is forever intertwined with our cities as a result of this incident.
As we come up on that 10-year anniversary, how have you seen Chattanooga work to create a lasting legacy of remembrance and also respect for those members of the Fallen Five?
We use the word respect in your question. I think that's really important, is we don't just remember them, we respect what they did. And anybody who has gone through as many debriefings about the minute by minute, second by second of that day knows the incredible bravery that these individuals and also their fellow service members who were there that day showed, um, plus the members of the Chattanooga Police Department who were incredible in their response from people who were officers all the way up through the ranks. And so I think that Chattanooga has really worked hard to both memorialize, remember, and respect these men and their families. One way, of course, was that we put together that immediate response fund. A second is that there is on the Riverwalk, we have some beautiful public art. I think that is there and was very thoughtfully put together and placed in a location that was appropriate and respectful. You can go into it's by the Riverwalk, but you can still go and be a little private and think about them. And then, the last piece is, I went to makeshift memorials in the days following There were, murals painted over the city. I saw various places where people left empty spots, at tables to commemorate these individuals. And I think that's really the greatness of Chattanooga.
All right, Mr. Burke, is there anything that I didn't ask you, or again, maybe just something that you want to reflect on about this day?
I don't think so.
All right, well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.